when you compare yourself to other people and you start to compete with other people who are at higher levels than you get better. What happens when you get better? You give yourself an opportunity to create more value for the people you create value for in your life. Clients, customers, family, children, spouse. Like every time you compare yourself and you compete and you work to get better, it's better for everybody. It's better for literally everyone in the world. Because if you get better, you're going to be better at everything you do. And if you're better at everything you do, you give more value to everyone around you. This is the key. This is the key to competition and comparison and why it's so powerful. Because if you compare yourself to someone and you're not where that person is, guess what? That person is adding more value to more people than you are. And that's what we have to realize. If we are not as good as someone in some area of life, we're not at our best to serve as much value as possible to the people in our lives that we truly want to add value to. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. JJ Peller here, excited to talk with you today about a topic that I believe is vitally important for all of us to think about, because most people have been wired to think a certain way about comparison, and it holds us back from actually using comparison in a positive, powerful way to effectively move us closer towards our goals and our dreams and to add more value to everyone around us. So today I want to talk with you about the idea that comparison is not the thief of joy, as many people reiterate on social media, and they say, hey, stop comparing yourself because comparison is the thief of joy. I want to give you my argument today for why it is absolutely not the thief of joy, and in fact, why it can help you to thrive in your life, and then how you can practically use it. And then I've got a handful of questions that I'm sure you're going to be asking about this thing, as you're like, well, but everyone always says comparison is the thief of joy, JJ. How can you say it's not? Don't worry. I'm going to get through these questions, and once you hear me get through these questions, I believe you'll at the very least feel differently about comparison and maybe, hopefully, be empowered to use it to your advantage in every area of your life. But before we jump into the topic, I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying getting these podcasts out, and hopefully you're enjoying them as well. I'm getting some good feedback on them as I'm getting reinvigorated with the podcast episodes specifically. Just the past handful of weeks, I've been putting out some more, and I'm having fun with it, and I hope you're enjoying listening to them. And if you're not yet subscribed, make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe here. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe here. And if you're getting value from it, please make sure you share it out with a friend, because that's how we help even more people, is by sharing a message that adds value to more people's lives. With that being said, one last thing. If you have any questions that you would like to hear my perspectives and thoughts on related to personal growth, being your very best, human potential, tapping into the fullness of who you were created to be, or literally anything about thriving and being your very best in life and maximizing your human potential, please send them over to me. You can comment in the YouTube video comments, or you can comment if you're watching on Spotify, or you can email me at connect@jjpeller.com, connect@jjpeller.com, and I will answer those questions on future podcast episodes. So let's get into it, shall we? I got to tell you, comparison is not the thief of joy. And if you believe that comparison is the thief of joy, you are preventing yourself from using a mindset or perspective that can actually help you tap into more of your greatest potential. And so, like I said, in this message, I want to give you some really practical ways to think about comparison that can actually benefit you and, in fact, benefit everyone around you. And so the first question people have is, how do you actually believe that comparison is not the thief of joy and that it can be positive? Here's the thing. Comparison is not helpful if you're looking at another person and you're thinking to yourself, like let's say you're scrolling on social media and you're thinking to yourself, man, that person's so much farther ahead than me. They're amazing and I'm not. You see, if you use comparison as a way to put yourself down, it certainly is not going to help you, and it certainly will steal your joy. But if you use it in a way where you're like, man, that person's so far ahead and that's inspiring, and now I can see what's possible, that's a very different way of thinking about comparison. And so if you ever find yourself comparing yourself to other people on their journey, you may have heard other people say, well, don't compare yourself to someone else's journey if you're at a different place in your life on your journey. And to an extent, that's true, but to an extent, it holds you back from realizing that that person probably was at a different point in his or her journey earlier that maybe aligns with where you actually want to be. And what I mean by that is we can always look at the people that are ahead of us and gain insight and wisdom and knowledge about how we can also accelerate our lives. One of the best ways to find your greatest potential, to tap into your greatest potential, is to actually model people who are successful in the way you want to be successful. And the way you model people is by observing them and seeing what they do. And by the very nature of observing someone who's further ahead of you and comparing yourself to that person, there's comparison. So you're going to ask yourself, like, what is this person doing that I'm not doing? How's this person thinking that I'm not thinking? What are the beliefs this person has that I don't yet have, or I don't yet fully believe, or I'm not convinced of yet at this point? And so in order to understand how we can get where someone else is, who is where we want to be, we got to make the comparison. Because if you're not comparing, how do you know what's missing? How do you know what gaps you still need to fill? And so that's why I really believe that comparison can be a powerful tool if used correctly. So here's the first question. How do you differentiate between a healthy comparison that's motivating and toxic comparison that's discouraging? This simply comes down to, what are you telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself about that comparison? Again, if the story you're telling yourself is, well, that person's just better than I am or more gifted and I can't do that, clearly that's toxic because it can't help you. It's not going to make you better to think that another person got where he's at because he's got something you don't have. But it actually becomes motivating and a healthy comparison when you say, hey, that person's farther ahead than me. What does that person have that he's developed? A skill he's learned, a belief he's taken on, a thought process or philosophy for life and success that I can also learn and develop for myself so I can accelerate my success and get to where that person's at too. That is a healthy version of comparison. So now the question becomes, okay, if someone struggles with self-doubt or low confidence, won't comparison just make them feel worse instead of inspiring them? Well, look, we got to identify, how do we actually view confidence? Because way too many people think confidence is simply about comparing yourself to where someone else is at relative to where you're at. Again, that's when comparison becomes the thief of joy. It also then becomes the thief of confidence. But what if instead you realized your confidence was about your ability to perform at your very best for wherever you are in your life? So as an example, I can have tremendous confidence getting on the golf course that I'm going to hit the best golf shot that I can every time I step up to the ball. It doesn't mean I have confidence in saying I'm going to hit a hole-in-one, or it doesn't mean I'm going to have confidence in I would beat Tiger Woods right now. It just means I have confidence in my ability to be effective and productive as much as possible for where I am on my journey. And if my confidence comes from my ability to know that I can do the best I can in the moment that I'm doing the thing based on the current level of skill, knowledge, insight, wisdom, whatever it is, that gives me confidence that I can perform at my best. But it doesn't mean I'm performing at the best. It doesn't mean if I got on a basketball court with Michael Jordan, well, maybe you could probably still beat me in basketball, actually, let's be honest. But like, who's the best basketball player you can think of? If I got on a basketball court with that guy, I cannot have confidence that like I'm going to absolutely demolish this person. Like that would be silly. That's unfounded confidence. But I can have confidence in the fact that I'm going to do the best I can for whatever skills, abilities, and mindset I have in that moment when I step on the court to play that game. So another question might be, is competition, because by the way, I should tell you why I started thinking about this. I was just recently reviewing my top strengths from Strength Finders. There's a book called Strength Finders 2.0. My top strengths are positivity, maximizer, learner, responsibility, and competition. And competition simply means I want to win. And it's funny, reading the book, it actually says I don't even want to necessarily have fun. Winning is not really even necessarily fun. It's just like, I just want to win. That's it. Like, I just want to know that I won at the end of doing whatever the thing is that I'm doing. And so I tell you this because I started to realize, how do we leverage our strengths? We leverage our strengths by understanding our strengths. And one of the strengths I have is competition. And you might think, well, that seems like competition, isn't that bad? Isn't that the comparison thing or thief of joy? Like, you have to win to be fulfilled and successful and feel successful? Well, no, but it helps me thrive and be my best and tap into my greatest potential when I actually know where I am relative to where I could be. So we can tap into competition to actually better ourselves. So if you want to be the best in the world at the thing you do, it naturally makes sense to start looking at who are the people today who are the best in the world at what they do in the way you want to be the best in the world. And then start to model those people and then start to compete with those people. Even if they don't know that you're competing with them, you, in your mind, can still say, I'm competing with these people, even though they don't know that I'm competing with them. And so the reason this is important is if we don't have something to compare ourselves to, how do we know what being great at the thing actually means? How do we know if we've achieved a certain level of success in a particular area? How do we know we're making progress? We've got to be able to measure it to know if we're making progress. And one way to measure it is to compare ourselves against what other people are doing in that space or that field. Now, do I think that if you actually don't care about, I don't know, whatever it is, like being a great basketball player, and I'm comparing myself to you as a basketball player, that shouldn't matter to you. Like, it's not like I'm putting you down by comparing myself to you as a basketball player. It might just mean I'm trying to find someone that I want to be better at in basketball, so that I can know where I'm at relative to other people. Because again, I want to win. I want to feel like I'm achieving and going higher and making progress. And this is just one simple way to do it. And so if somebody asks, like, was competition actually necessary for success, or can you reach your full potential without it? I just think it's hard to tap into your greatest potential without a level of competition in your life. I mean, and I only say this because the highest performers I've ever studied are incredibly competitive people. Like, they want to be the best. They want their team or their company or themselves to be the best at whatever it is that they do. And so that by nature is competition. And so if they don't have that competition, they don't know what being the best actually means. And so I believe that if you're not competitive, you got to find a way to get competitive. Here's another question. Can comparison be useful even in areas where there is no clear winner or loser, like personal relationships or creativity? This is awesome. This is an awesome question because, yes, competition and comparison can still be useful. Kind of what I was just saying. Like, as an example, I don't think I can win at being a dad compared to all the other dads in the world. I'm not going to be like, well, I'm the best dad in the world. Like, all other dads are not good compared to me. I would dominate every dad in a dad competition. That makes no sense. Because, like, I'm only a dad to my children, and those other dads are only dads to their children. So, like, there's no way to make the comparison. But here's where the comparison and competition can actually work and how I use it. I look and see what I see other dads doing with their children that I admire and I respect, and all of a sudden it becomes a new measurement or metric for me to follow, to strive towards, to achieve. Like, if I feel like there's dads out there that are doing a better job than me in terms of my own self-reflection, comparison, and self-analysis in terms of like being an encouragement to their kids or helping their kids to thrive in different areas of life or doing different things with their kids. I'm like, man, that's awesome. I'm not doing that. I really want to do that. Or I was doing it, but I'm not doing it now. Or that person's doing it at a higher level than I am. Like, that inspires me. That motivates me. That moves me to want to also do that for my kids. Not in a way that like I want to be better than that dad. In fact, it's almost like an admiration and a respect at such a level that I want to simply know that is a new level and standard for myself in my ability to be a great dad. So, this is a good one we got to get into. Does comparison ever conflict with contentment? How do you balance striving for more with being grateful for where you are? This is a great question because I actually think I had a coach one time in Pop Warner football say, after we played a scrimmage, I was in 6th grade, and he's sitting us all in this, everybody sat down, all the players sat down, he's standing up and he's talking at us. And he said, I think we probably lost every scrimmage. I don't even remember. We weren't very good in terms of winning and losing the actual games. But he said, let's be content but not satisfied. Let's be content but not satisfied. And I actually raised my hand and I said, what's content mean? I didn't know what it meant. He told us to be content and I didn't know what it meant. And he said, he kind of smiled and he said, it basically means be happy. Like let's feel good about what we did today, but not be satisfied, and that we've got to continue to strive and work to go to our next level and get better and better and better. And I realized in that moment, like that's my life philosophy, be content, but not satisfied, meaning I'm joyful and happy and grateful for everything in life and for where I am, but it doesn't mean I don't allow myself to get frustrated and irritated with not being at the next level. It's almost like we've got to be able to hold these two things to be simultaneously true. They seem dichotomous. They seem like they're in conflict with each other, but they have to work together. This, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for the level of where I am with my professional career, with the amount of people that I get to reach and serve with my podcast and other content. And there's another level. And so I don't believe that comparison prevents us from having that gratitude for where we are today. It just gives us the next mark to strive towards. It's that gap of satisfaction. It's like, I'm content, I'm happy, I'm full of joy and gratitude, and I want to go to my next level. We've got to be able to balance those two things, I believe, in order to tap into our greatest potential. Okay, last question I'm going to finish this with here. Can comparison be leveraged not just for personal gain, but to elevate others as well? Yes, and this is the thing. This is the key. When you compare yourself to other people and you start to compete with other people who are at higher levels than you, you get better. What happens when you get better? You give yourself an opportunity to create more value for the people you create value for in your life. Clients, customers, family, children, spouse. Like every time you compare yourself and you compete and you work to get better, it's better for everybody. It's better for literally everyone in the world. Because if you get better, you're going to be better at everything you do. And if you're better at everything you do, you give more value to everyone around you. This is the key. This is the key to competition and comparison, and why it's so powerful. Because if you compare yourself to someone and you're not where that person is, guess what? That person is adding more value to more people than you are. And that's what we have to realize. If we are not as good as someone in some area of life, we're not at our best to serve as much value as possible to the people in our lives that we truly want to add value to. So, I'm a firm believer that comparison is not the thief of joy. Comparison is actually meant to help us go to our next level and understand that there is a next level, and to stay inspired and encouraged on our journey to be our very best in literally every area of life. Friend, I hope this message served you today. I hope you gained value. And if you enjoyed it, please make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you have questions you'd like me to answer, please send them to me at connect@jjpeller.com via email, or you can find me on Instagram at JJPeller. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm in all of those places, and I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode, and I would love to answer your questions in future podcasts, because I love just getting to engage with you and others who are paying attention to this content. And it's most fun for me to answer questions of people who are actually curious about how to better themselves, how to be their very best, and how to tap into their very greatest potential. Friend, I just want you to also know, before we wrap this thing up, that you are made for more. I know for certain that whatever level you feel you are at today, there might be this knowingness that you've got more in you to give, to create, to contribute. You've got another level. There's more potential inside of you, and I want you to know that that feeling, that intuition is spot on. You do have more. You are made for more, and you can become, do, give, create, contribute even more in this world. That's why we need to compare ourselves to people that are at next levels than we are, so that we can know more is possible, and that we can close that gap. We can get better. We can compete to become even better, to add more value to even more lives. So friend, please refuse to settle for anything less than your greatest potential. Refuse to quit on your dreams. Just keep freaking going. And I look forward to talking with you next time. Be your best friend.